You shoot me in a dream, you better wake up and apologize.
Stuff your sorries in a sack, mister.
I'm sorry, I thought it was there.
Congratulations! You've unlocked All Apologies, a show about apology tours and demanding satisfaction. I'm your host, Andy Q. Public, and with me, as always, is your co-host, Joe Sixpack. Joe, what the fuck's going on?
666.
Andy, I wanted to issue an apology. You can no longer get tickets to Subreddit Surfing Live because it happened last night. We did it finally. We've been talking about it. It feels like we've been talking about it forever.
Yeah.
And,
what are you going to talk about when I throw to you now going forward? This has been your whole shortcut to content.
Yeah. Putting more fiber in your diet. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Did you have a good time last night, Joe?
Oh, I had too good a time. I was like tapping my foot until we got off stage so I could really, cut loose and enjoy.
The best part was when it was over.
Yeah, Vinny and Cardiff, watch them do their show. I don't know, but most people probably don't know. Andy plays in bands. Carl and Vinny's on stage all the time. Carl plays in bands. He's obviously does his show. I don't do a lot of appearances on a stage, so it was very new and different for me.
You had butterflies?
A little, only about making it a good show. Not nervous to be in front of people or anything like that.
Yeah,
I don't have that fear of public speaking that some people are debilitated by.
Yeah,
no, only nervous to not say something completely fucked up in front of a crowd of people.
It's very hard for Joe Sixpack to not use the N-word.
Yeah, well, not even that. I mean that. I always think that Andy's just like, well, we have no idea what he'll say at any given time, so we're all taking a bit of a risk here just by being in the same room as Joe.
It's more just like keeping you on track is mainly what I worry about.
Maybe, yeah, I will go off on a tangent every now and then. That's for sure. It's hard,
but everybody should know that it was a great segment. We covered Stuttering John. Oh, here's some footage that I used, put on Instagram. That's what the stage looked like. You see Carl Hamburger and Lucy Tightbox there on the right. And then that great artwork by Troy Smith, and Vinny plussed it up with some bubbling beer graphics behind it, which looked amazing. Vinny did such a great job. And then we delved into the Stuttering John Howard Stern days, where Stuttering John couldn't be depended upon to deliver the top five songs of the day at a radio station that he worked. All you have to do is walk into the next room and go, hey, what are the top 5 songs today? And some DJ is going to know that information. Stuttering John can't seem to figure that out.
Yeah. Oh, no, what you really have to do is walk into the radio station and go, did the top 5 change at all? It's the same songs as last week, right?
Right.
Okay, all set, Howard. I didn't have to do anything.
Oh, you mean 5 and 4 switched this week? Okay, I'll just switch them. And if I forget to do that, nobody will even notice. It's the easiest fucking job for a moron, and John couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody wants to go find the original clip, it's if you look for the Howard TV.
No. You don't go find that. You subscribe to our Patreon and you watch us break it down with Carl Hamburger from WATP. That's what you do.
What a fool I am. You're exactly right. Yeah, watch us talk about it because it's going to be way better. So
you got to see the helmet that Lockie created for Cardiff too. If nothing else, check out the Cardiff mask. It's amazing.
That was worth the price of admission. Was just looking at it. It was like I kept saying it was like the Mona Lisa. If he was looking at you, that potato mask was like staring into your soul. It was like so crazy.
That's what I'm going to start I'm going to start referring to Cardiff Electric as the Mona Lisa of podcasting.
The Mona Lisa of potatoes.
Yeah.
Okay. It was like when you see Jesus in a pancake or something like that. You see like the Mona Lisa and the potato.
Yeah.
That's what it would be like. Today we're covering Harrison Young's cousin.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yes, today the topic of the day is Harrison Young's cousin, Sarah Silverman. And honestly, I'm
Do you
surprised.
think that Sarah Silverman ever played living room baseball with Harrison Young? She probably invented
Yeah,
it.
well, it's a one-man game, so maybe she plays it by herself in her
A
apartment.
one-man shirtless game.
Yes. A psychotic, creepy, psycho one-person game. But I am surprised that Sarah has not come up sooner on this show because I get the feeling that we might be able to do a part 2 from her because she is insisting on walking back almost her entire career.
Yeah,
And
we were talking about it yesterday, and I think we kind of agreed that she's like I don't know if she's A-list. Would you consider Sarah Silverman maybe a B-list celebrity? She's not like Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, but she's very famous.
she was in that Wreck-It Ralph. You know, the minute you're a voice in a Disney movie, you're pretty much
Von Schweetz or whatever her name is. Yeah, so she's doing really well, but yeah, like you said, I think she'd be kind of the B-list celebrity equivalent of Tana Mojo, right?
yeah. I think
You know, like,
there's
super
definitely
sorry.
there's definitely more to mine out of this because I barely did any homework and I came up with way too much. So if we do a little bit of digging, there's probably more to cover. So when we get desperate, we'll revisit this. But
Okay.
at one time, Sarah Silverman was a funny comedian, and she ran in the circle of like the alt comedy circle of that era that featured like Patton Oswalt and Brian Posehn. Like these names were synonymous with Sarah Silverman at that time. But like Patton Oswalt, there are a few parallels between her and his career. I feel like she achieved a certain level of success where you begin to fear losing what you gained. So when you start worrying about what you can't say, your sense of humor is now secondary, and so are your jokes. So her whole everything that we think about Sarah Silverman now is different. Is that
Right.
you would agree with that, right?
It's very
Look at you now.
Yeah.
It was just it used to be good. Like I think famously, if people aren't familiar with the beginning of Way of the Gun, where that opening sequence with her it is great, and that's when she was like kind of at the height of her powers, I would say. That's when I kind of enjoyed her the most. Then when she didn't give a shit, you know?
Right. I mean, that's what made her funny. She was arguably hot, but she had a trucker mouth, and that's why that's what made her unique, right?
I would say the best looking, the hottest female comedian, and whatever. That's not saying much, right? Because she's definitely the benchmark for somebody like Nikki Glazer, right? To come out
Yeah.
and be attractive.
Her name,
And
Amy
also-
Schumer, is like, I'm going to
She's
talk about
attractive.
sex, and I'm mildly attractive. Yeah. Well, Amy Schumer was attractive at one time, And we gotta dig into her too after this.
It's a good point.
There's definitely Amy Schumer apologies out there.
Yeah, but I think you're right in the sense that there was always like Elaine Boozler and who else was like way back when Roseanne. Oh yeah, Roseanne. Like female comedians who people are like, she's a pig, but she's kind of funny. Or female comics are just not funny, right? And then Sarah
Yeah,
Silverman came
Paula
along.
Poundstone was not hot.
Right, right, no, good point. So thanks for coming out. So Ellen DeGeneres, Paula Poundstone, Rita Rudner was the one I was trying to come up with. Rita Rudner, Elaine Boozler, like all of these kind of like female comedians who were like, everybody post Phyllis Diller was just kind of like, whatever, take them or leave them. I don't give a shit. Then Sarah Silverman came along. It's just like, oh, she's young and attractive and
Yeah.
talks like a trucker.
That's
And
not
she kind of-
Joan Rivers.
Joan River, yeah,
just
she
saying.
was at the filling in for Johnny Carson. She was obviously one of the
No, I
biggest.
mean, I'm
but
just saying, like, this is like a turn away from that type, what you would expect a female comedian to be.
right, they had to be like super polished, and it felt like almost they were limited or like operating with one hand tied behind their back. And I think that Sarah Silverman kind of broke that mold when she hit the scene. You know,
Right.
she would have been at the same time as like Janine Garofalo and things like that, like you said, Patton and Brian Posehn and
Right. And she was on SNL for a little bit, and
Mhm.
she was good on there, but short lived. But now she spends most of her time steeped in woke culture on her podcast, where she has time to reflect on all of her jokes, for better or worse. And we're going to start with the worse part of what she apologizes for in our podcast these days. In clip 1, we're going to get into Sarah going to explaining the nature of taking controversial topics and trying to make light of that subject matter and the difficulties that come along with that.
Myself, I'm a comedian. I'm a comedian, and when you're a comedian, just by virtue that comedy is not evergreen, you're taking a risk. You know, especially if you're thought of or you consider yourself a risk-taking comedian or an edgy comedian. That risk is something. You're risking something. You can't complain when there are consequences. You're risking consequences.
She's kind of laying the groundwork for excuses about why what we're going to get into happened.
Mhm.
And I believe she says that in both these packages that we're about to listen to, we're covering 2 apologies. And in both of them, she says that comedy is not evergreen. And I kind of want to disagree with that, just on the whole, when we're talking about jokes and comedy and what flies and what's edgy and what is evergreen. You have to remember that there's things like the Three Stooges,
Mhm.
which that's evergreen comedy. That's never not going to be funny.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that? That's evergreen comedy.
I mean, for some people, I mean, for men, yeah, but it's rare that I would talk to, you know, a woman who thinks that the Three Stooges are funny. That it's just not for them. I don't know if it's like the slapstick.
There's a lot of examples, but that's
How
why
far
I don't
back
accept
do you
these
have to go?
blanket statements of saying that comedy's not evergreen, because the slapstick of the Three Stooges was evergreen. That is not going to be that's never not going to be funny.
Right.
And it's a little known fact, Joe. If those shorts weren't in black and white, they were all wearing green. They were wearing evergreen. It is evergreen.
Yeah. Oh,
It's more that bits don't age well, is where she's going with this.
I know where she's
What we're
going.
going to talk about is what she put on her show as a joke that has been wholly rejected by the audience and herself. So she's saying it's not evergreen because it didn't age well. That's what she's saying. And I'm saying there is a version of comedy that does age well. And I'm trying to say that the Three Stooges is my example of that. You refuse to agree with me. That's fine.
Oh, I don't refuse to. I do agree with you, but it's a matter of saying like heavy metal. You know, my taste lay in heavy metal. Some people would be like, well, that'll never be evergreen. Sabbath
Sure.
is not evergreen because I don't like Sabbath. Right? There's a matter of taste as well. You know, my kids or whatever will not understand that Dr. Dre was the coolest music at the time when I was a kid, and they listen to it and it sounds like freaking Mozart now to them. You know, they think it sounds like old man music now.
Well, hey, maybe Surfing USA sounds dated, but God Only Knows is more evergreen when
Yeah,
you're talking
for
about
sure.
music, you know?
Yeah.
It's not every song, but a lot of songs.
Well,
Anyway,
I guess
but-
what we're saying is like what she's trying to get at is it's not, you can't make that a blanket statement, basically. and
right.
say
That's what I was been getting at. It's
Sure.
this is you can't she makes a few like that in the course of this package. I just want to establish that I disagree with her on that because I'm going to get to a point where I agree with her on a few things.
Okay.
So let's try and move forward. And in 2, she's going to establish that trying to add shock value to jokes puts you in a divisive situation.
That's part of your job. That's part of what I do. So if you want to take that risk, you have to accept consequences. And I accept these consequences. I've talked a lot about it. You know, if you don't want consequences, then don't call yourself edgy. Though, I mean, like any comic that calls themselves edgy is, you know, it's a little corny. That's for other people to say, doll.
Right. But you're saying it now, so douche chills.
Yeah.
I
Or
was
that
so
that's
edgy
what we're
back then.
going for. Even if it's something that's supposed to be going unsaid, like to be like my intention was to shock you into a new way of thinking or whatever. It's just like, yeah.
I'm going to say, like, Anthony Jeselnik is very good at this. He has a lot of shock value jokes that, you know, maybe are nobody's better at making a dead baby joke than Anthony Jeselnik. It's just that there's a way to do it and there's a way to not do it. And there is a cross section of audience that will, you know, the people that you offend can be a bigger spectrum of audience. And
Yeah.
she found the biggest spectrum of audience members to offend,
Well,
whereas
I
Jeselnik
would
can get away with it.
I would say that that's almost wrong-headed or approaching it from that. I think a lot of the best comedy, or if you're going to start with the basics, that it has to be rooted in a universal truth, right? There has to be commonality to it because you're trying to appeal to a wide audience here. And if you want to be Gigi Allen and like playing with your shit on stage or something like that, you're not going to get a lot of people, and you're not going to fill. Gigi Allen doesn't fill. He doesn't sell tickets. Gigi Allen doesn't sell tickets.
I think he did, though.
Yeah, but not
some.
much. You know, it's a difference between being a punk rock artist and being a success at your craft. You know.
He was no Mick Jagger. We'll say that. And clip 3 that I called Awokened. To be honest, I agree with a lot of what Sarah says about giving people the grace to change their minds and opinions and to change, accept that they were wrong and not have their whole lives be defined by a singular moment.
The reason you can look at art, the same piece of art, you know, different times throughout the world and see a very different thing each time is because what changes is the world around it, and it changes what you see. You know, an awakened world is going to see more problems, but it's worth it because then you can fix those problems.
So yeah, she's given herself a metaphorical hysterectomy. She's no longer hysterical. She's too woke to be funny, is what's happening with Sarah Silverman now.
I think it was Ad Rock from when they were talking about the Beastie Boys, right?
Dude, you're fucking reading my mind. All right, go on. Please say what you're going to say.
So Ad Rock was interviewed at one point about the former motif of the Beastie Boys and License to Ill and being misogynist and things like that. And then they come out, you know, with Paul's Boutique, which was radically different, and Check Your Head. And then MCA is a Buddhist and supporting Tibet and things like that. And it's just that you change as a person. And there was an interviewer who was trying to hold Ad Rock to hold his feet to the fire over, oh no, you were misogynist in the 80s, so that means you're a misogynist. And he's just like, yeah, but people change. And how boring of a person would you be if you were just the same misogynistic gamer word person that you were when you were 18 and now you're 37 and you're still that guy? That's sad.
You're right on track, Joe. You're right there with me, because as this package progresses, you're going to realize how right you are. And in clip 4, none of this is to say that the bit she did on her show was good or funny or poignant, and Sarah certainly didn't think it was either. And are you aware of like the top, like where I'm going? I'm kind of slow rolling it too.
I
But
mean,
the
I know where we're going, but
Yeah.
I'm not even familiar with the context of it though.
Okay, well, because we're gonna get to it, but this is basically a blackface bit that she did on her show, that she's explaining why, how she got there and how she's gonna get away from it.
So back to this blackface episode of the Sarah Silverman program, we wanted to use comedy to explore and expose racism, which now just is like, I feel like saying fuck you like to myself. But I had not yet learned all that I know about race in America. Then I knew there was racism in America, but I had no idea what I was about to understand.
It's certainly not a unvalid point to make, but it's not her point to make. Was maybe the mistake that she made. And
we always talk about this isn't the champion of the cause that we need right now.
Exactly.
Tom Sandoval is not the champion of cheaters. Like that's not the person we need talking. At times, but yeah.
And the bit was pitting victim cards against each other. She was like, "Hey, I'm a Jewish lady and you're a black guy, and what if we switched places?" And then the black guy gets a big like hook nose and she has Al Jolson makeup on, and they live out the day as each other. So that I don't have all of the episode there. I'm just telling you what happens in the show.
Do you have a clip of it at all?
Oh yes, this next clip. Clip 13, we have to like jump
my comments.
Yeah, this is a super cut of all the hilarious content that happens in the show with Sarah Silverman and Al Jolson blackface minstrel show makeup.
I look like the beautiful Queen Latifah. Love it, it's so Rhoda. New York, this is your last chance. I had no idea how cruel white people could be to us. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm black today. Forsaken by my own people. This is literally my darkest hour. You were right. It's so much harder to be black than it is to be Jewish. I'd kill myself if I were black.
Excuse me, miss?
Don't worry, I'm not black. There's nothing harder in the world than being black.
Exactly.
Gee, that wouldn't happen to be because I'm black, would it? You have a problem with me being black, officer?
Well, yeah, it's revolting.
Ugh.
Completely over the line.
Tell the people what you've seen and heard.
I don't know.
Right. So she's playing a dimwit, and the bit seems to be self-aware. Most people realize what she's doing is in poor taste on purpose, including the all-black choir that you saw in there, who were all paid to be part of the production and didn't feel it necessary to remove themselves from this awful woman's show. So it's a bit of a moment in time where they thought they could get away with that. I'm not saying that was good or funny. I didn't hear any laughing coming from Joe Sixpack at that.
I wonder if Dan. I wonder if this is where Dan Harmon and her started having problems when they were creating this show or
Oh, were
whatever.
they? Was
was
Harmon involved with that?
Yeah, I think he was fired off of it at one point. They had ended up having like a contentious relationship for a while. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to understand that because it's like it's not. We covered Julianne Hough for her crazy eyes, blackface costume at one point. We've seen Jimmy Kimmel dressed as Karl Malone. I don't think we ever covered it, but Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, has
But
been taking.
it's funny though, because like we bring up all these examples of where it was like ill received, but then at the same time, nobody wants to bring up Tropic Thunder and Robert Downey Jr. and because it was done in a way, because this goes back to the argument that I keep having with people about Tarantino, and I keep watching The Hateful Eight, and I keep listening to Bruce Dern and Walton Goggins just screaming the N-word with a hard R for 2 hours of this movie. And I'm just like, nobody has a problem with this. And it's because of the storytelling and the writing and the quality and whatever. And I just keep saying Sam Jack just keeps signing off on Tarantino and he just keeps getting away with it. But why don't people have a problem with that? Why don't people have a problem with Tropic Thunder? But people are so willing to shit on all these other like lesser crimes of that.
I think you bring up a good point, and I think that this example, like Sarah Silverman, falls into, like I do think not to skip ahead to the accepting or rejecting apologies, but this is definitely an artistic choice. This is definitely something that this was intentional. This was not a mistake. This wasn't like I never even considered the ramifications of this before.
Well, right, and like I said, black people signed off on that black choir, the guy that was the black guy that turned into the Jewish person. Like these people are actively participating in this, and their point of view of why they would do that is set aside to spotlight Sarah Silverman being a piece of shit.
I can't even remember. It was something I said, but it's kind of a thing that it must have been on Instagram or something, but it's definitely that Jewish people and African American people kind of they have this like very close relationship because of like the hate that they receive from, I guess, white people or all around. But they do kind of connect in a way, and I can see like the premise of the episode there. She's not even like these other examples that we talked is like these people are trying to present themselves as black and come off as black. She's not even trying. It's very intentionally bad. Like it doesn't look African American at all. It looks very much like a stereotype. So
I'll say as we're talking about this right now and knowing what I know about where the rest of the apology in this package is going, just something that's occurring to me right now and what she thinks that she's doing and what she's actually doing she's trying to make white people who have no experience with what the black experience is. She's trying to like show it to white folks instead of black folks watching this and being like, well, that's completely racist. And it is. But the intent, I think, is to maybe try and change white people's minds. And it's just like nobody's worried about white people,
So you're saying Sarah's like,
this is your future, sitting and apologizing.
Sarah is telling white people that they should be sitting and apologizing. We talk about obviously Joe Budden a lot. I get a lot of my black culture impressions from Joe Budden's show, and I think if you showed this to Joe Budden, he would be like,
right,
okay. Like it's not like black people are going to be like, this is offensive.
That's
You know,
what I
it's-
was saying though. It's like this is black culture for white people is what she's doing. It's
Yeah.
not for black people.
Yeah.
All right, but we have a lot of clips, so I want to put the accelerator down on this because we're
Let's
at
do
clip 5 and we have like 27. So
Jesus.
we're going to get to something more fun, I promise. Now Sarah wants to draw a parallel that makes very little sense and see if you can figure out where she's going with this point in clip 5.
I had no idea really what was going on, and social media was a huge part of my education, just like the Me Too movement taught well-intentioned cis men that daily life for non-cis men is fundamentally different, is fundamentally harder.
Fuck all that.
I don't know. What I can tell you is I stopped listening the second she said, I got all this from social media. So Russian fucking hacker farms and fucking, all these bots and everybody who's trying to make you feel a certain way. That's where this is all coming from.
Yeah, I mean, social media is not where to learn anything, but the Me Too movement was about women not wanting to pay their dues in Hollywood, right? It was about Harvey Weinstein wearing out his casting couch. That's what the Me Too movement was about.
No. Cis men weren't learning anything other than there was other more powerful white guys who were using their power to, get blowjobs more effectively than they could.
Yeah.
That's all I found out.
It's going to continue down. This is her sort of throwing other cultural tropes and like zeitgeist things under the bus to justify why she did it on her show. So cis men is the first in the parade of people getting thrown under the bus. And I believe that there's like a cross section of the population that doesn't realize the challenges that other people face. But I disagree with more of what Sarah is saying in this next clip.
And that up until then, cis men had only had to see life through their own cis male lens to survive. And I remember the moment just a few years ago when I realized that white people have only had to see the world through a white lens in order to survive. Whereas people of color have to see the world through their lens and a white lens in order to survive in this country.
I disagree with these blanket generalizations that people can't look at the world. Some people are worldly, some people are inclusive, some people are empathic, and Sarah's just been reading too much critical race theory. And you mentioned it before. It's like, are you telling me the Beastie Boys didn't get it? Because that's the world that I grew up in, where hip hop was cool and black culture was cool. And I just don't think that no white person has the capacity to understand. I mean, yes, the experience is different, but understanding it isn't impossible. So this is another outlandish smokescreen to distract from what people are mad at Sarah about in clip 7.
Just like women see the world through their lens and need to see the world through a male lens in order to survive in this country. But I was watching yet another black person get shot by a cop. It was Philando Castile, 2016.
We speak their name.
And I remember thinking, oh my God,
there's rewatching it.
An epidemic of
your favorite show.
It's a GIF.
Cops killing black people. The very, of black people being killed by the people who are sworn an oath to serve and protect them.
These cops that are a cancer on society just keep shooting people that try to commit crimes. It's a tragedy. I don't think it's an epidemic of cops killing black people all day, every day. The way she's painting it here, in the context of her blackface bit that she did intentionally on her show.
Well, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is I don't see how her little show fits in with this overall thing. You know, it's a very different story. Well, not even. I mean, they got into it. She gets arrested at the end, and I think in the end she's being arrested for wearing blackface, not being arrested for being black. It's just like the cop can see that she's being tremendously disrespectful or whatever.
Right.
But also, I don't think that's even not, you can't get arrested for that. I don't know how it plays out on the show or whatever, but yeah, no, I don't know. This is just the beginning of her going, I need to, you know, rectify this with myself, and this is her way of doing it publicly. Like,
Yeah,
she's pulling herself into her own office and, you know, telling herself that she's a disgrace to her own uniform, I guess.
That's what I said. First, it was just cis white men in general. Now it's the fucking cops. Okay, these are the people that are the problem.
Right.
And Sarah is now going to blame society as a whole for letting this bit happen in clip 8.
God. And then a couple beats after that, I went, oh my God, that's not an epidemic. It's how it's always been. I'm just seeing it now because of social media. That was a doozy. That changed me, you know, like on a cellular level. Then I started looking back. And the realizations kept coming. Like that episode where I wore blackface had to go through several filters to be on national television. I didn't wear blackface at a party, you know, somewhere in time. It was on television, had to go through many filters.
So George Floyd didn't die in vain. It was also that Sarah Silverman could become so woke by reacting to what happened. That's what she's saying there.
Right. Yeah. Everyone else who put a stamp of approval on that was racist. It's like she's trying to play gotcha with all of Comedy Central or something like that. Gotcha, Comedy Central, you racist. You let me put this out.
Yeah. It's
Good
cis
job,
men,
bro.
it's cops, it's everyone that works at Comedy Central. It's all white people's fault. And in clip 9, we learned that Sarah is a snake eating her own tail.
And not only was it written and produced by whites, but the filters were white. And this is only, 13 years ago. And the realization that, we always thought like in this episode, I thought I was playing an ignorant woman in a liberal bubble who thought she was illuminating racism by wearing blackface. What I didn't realize then is that in reality, I was an ignorant woman in a liberal bubble who thought she was illuminating racism by using blackface.
Shyamalan twist. The call is coming from inside the house. You didn't realize that you were the villain the whole time, Sarah.
Well, I mean, there's such a thing as starting a conversation too, but there is definitely, like she says, the filters were all white and things like that. I think your wife, Andy, actually was telling me at one point when they were testing like facial recognition, like for the iPhone, so it would open properly. It worked perfectly on a white man's face, but the second you added like bigger hair or a different skin tone or something like that, the technology started failing more because they hadn't tested it in that way. Everybody who created the shit was a white guy, and they had to go through tons of revisions because they didn't account for other facial structures and
lighting and shadows not reading on black skin.
Things like that.
The technology wasn't there.
It happens. But you know what? I
yeah.
create a lot of fucking content, and the mission is always, unfortunately, because it's me, mission 1 is white English guy version, and we'll take it from there after the fact. But it's always where we start, at least for me, because that's the only frame of reference I really have.
Okay.
I'll get the frame of reference from a different gender and race from another person, because that's not me.
Yeah. Well, do black people want to do your job? I mean, affirmative action is a thing. Like, you can get hired. And that's what I always said about truck driving. When I was truck driving, I was like, we need people as bad as any industry. We'll hire anyone. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. Please come work with us. And it's just like people just don't want to do it. I mean, is that racist?
I don't know. My job's
the only
hiring.
people that would stoop to doing the job are primarily one ethnicity, or it's like you're welcome here. You just don't want to be here. If you don't want to be here, that's okay. But
you're the only one stupid enough to do that fucking job, you dumbass.
I know. Anyway, we get the closest thing to a joke that Sarah has left in her tank in clip 10.
So now what? I wished I could delete it from existence, but I can't. Can I? Can I? Wait, can I? No, I can't. I can only be fundamentally changed by it and make it right the best I can in every way that I can for the rest of my life. Period.
And that's the right reaction to have. You take it as a lesson learned. I mean, I never had to learn that lesson. I don't know. I guess I'm just not an edgy comedian, but I would never do something like that.
Yeah, I don't. Once again, it's different. She says I wasn't at a party. I didn't do this. What Ed is saying.
Yeah. Her quirky face. She's like Stuttering John. All of the stills when you pause the video, she's always just like, she's making all these fucking cartoonish faces.
Everything's a YouTube thumbnail of something that happened.
She's good with that. But so this is where things hit Sarah the hardest in clip 11. It starts to come back and hit her in the wallet.
It's not a curse. It's a gift. It's not hard, but you can't unring that bell. And again, there are consequences, and I got to take them. I got cast in an all-black movie, 2 days of work on it, and it's great. It's actually going to come out soon. And I learned all my lines. I was really excited. Written, directed, produced. All black people. And I was really honored to get to be a part of it. I'm excited. And the night before I was going to shoot at 11 o'clock at night, my agents called me and said that I was fired because one of the producers found like stills of me.
She's mad, bro.
Episode in blackface.
If it was all black, why was she there? Did she audition in blackface? And then they went and watched that episode and they're like, oh, she's not black at all. Why did we cast her in this?
I wish we could know what the project was and what her role was supposed to be in it. You know what I mean? So we could see where they went. Like the same way like Dalia got cut out of the Army of the Dead thing and they replaced him with Tig Notaro.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, like that's the best thing that ever happened to Chris D'Elia was getting eliminated from that movie because it's
probably
But
piece of shit. She's gonna end, by understanding why having her in an all-black movie was a bad idea. 12,
and that's a consequence. That's a consequence. Period. I was bummed. I certainly couldn't see myself as a victim. And I really think I would have done a great job at it, but they were probably smart. I understand. It's a small movie that did not want some stupid backlash like this deterring it from succeeding. How can I blame them?
Andy,
And that movie was Booty Call 2.
Andy, I'm gonna cosplay as a old fat lesbian in a wheelchair, so I never get tapped for any of those projects. I don't need to be a part of that community.
Yeah. You don't want to be a part of a club that would have you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to something maybe a little bit lighter. That was pretty heavy segment, but Sarah wants to apologize for her entire career, all of it. So let's go back to something that she shouldn't even bother apologizing for, and that is her VMA hosting where she shit on Paris Hilton.
Okay. I'm going to talk about Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton, on her latest podcast, calls me out for jokes that I did about her when I hosted the 2007 MTV Movie Awards. Here we go.
Right. You know who's had it too hard for too long that everybody needs to feel sorry for? Paris Hilton.
Oh yeah. We can't. That's what it's like. That's why I did a big sigh. Is just like we can't even make fun of rich white people anymore. Like vapid morons that have everything handed to them. Now we have to apologize to those people too. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, we have to manage Paris Hilton's feelings. So let's hear in clip 14 what was so hurtful.
Paris Hilton is going to jail. I heard that to make her feel like more comfortable in prison, the guards are going to paint the bars to look like penises. I just worry that she's going to break her teeth on those things.
Okay. Was that even really a great joke? No. Maybe not the best punchline, but
was the going to jail a show? Like, was that even real?
Yes.
She went to jail?
She couldn't get away with driving drunk all the time, all day, every day, is what happened. She got caught one too many times where they're finally like, we need to do something about this person because we just can't keep letting her get away with driving drunk constantly. That's how often she got caught driving drunk. That's why Paris Hilton went to jail. Okay. So I know it's a while ago. So I mean, I was doing a little research about it, but Sarah Silverman's joke and Paris Hilton's drunk driving aren't the biggest crimes here. The real crime is the content of Paris Hilton's sex tape. Have you ever seen it?
Probably like when it first came out. I would say like just to keep up on
you were doing
news of the day
research. I like
just so I was well informed. Just to be well informed with what's going on.
Yeah. Well, she's a fucking terrible lay. Is all that was revealed about that sex tape. She's like a dead fish that just laying there, two thumbs down, fucking boo sex tape. That's all. That's the real crime. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I recall that. That was the big takeaway.
Yeah, nobody was impressed. Sarah doesn't want to make crass jokes like that anymore. Instead, she's going to attempt the impossible.
As she said herself on the podcast, this would never happen today. And she's right. I would never do those jokes today. I've actually dedicated the past several years to trying to do comedy that attempts to marry hard-hitting jokes with actual heart.
Because everybody's favorite character is Marge Simpson. Those are always the best episodes, right? The jokes with heart. Nobody wants that.
I'm trying to think of that funny stand-up where they get the standing ovation at the end, and everybody was just like that. I left feeling like really good about the world at the end of that.
Yeah.
You don't know what.
God help us with the future of comedy when all these woke assholes are trying to do jokes with heart. I was gonna say, did you go see Fortune Feimster with us? Where she does 3 different applause breaks about getting gay married, and then bring her grand finale set ender is her bringing her puppy out on stage and holding it up and saying, "Hey, look at I have a cute dog and I'm gay married. Isn't this hilarious?" No, that's not comedy. That's where we're headed with this.
I feel like Mike Birbiglia is like they're poised as stand up, but I think it's more like a one man show about like him being a basket case and a dad and like all of these things, and there's funny stories, but in the end it's like some type of triumph of the human spirit between him and his wife and child, and like that's like the closest I can think, and nobody's running around going Mike Birbiglia is like the best, so I don't know why you want to go down that road.
No, of course not.
Mm-hmm.
But Sarah needs you to understand that the type of comedy that she was doing at the VMAs was the style at the time.
Back then, the consensus seemed to be that was not possible. And I fully accepted that. I came up in a time when talk show hosts and comedians hired to make fun of pop culture were roasting the biggest celebrities and pop culture icons at the time, and nobody was bigger than Paris Hilton.
Right. It's not possible. Like what you're proposing is not possible, because Ricky Gervais is killing it in this hosting role where he just roasts everybody, and no one is asking Sarah Silverman to host jack shit. I'm actually asking her to not host things. This podcast, please stop hosting it. Just bring it to an end.
Yeah. It was almost like a phenomenon going on at the time of whatever nip slips and upskirts and accidental sex tapes that got leaked or whatever. These
they
days,
call those the good old days.
Right. Now there's pornography in the palm of your hand at all times, whether it's your own dong or your phone. But it's just with OnlyFans and Instagram thought, you can't go on Instagram, Twitch, Discord, or Twitter. Everywhere you go, it's somebody's sex tape. Is AI faked now, and we can't say that you want to knock Paris Hilton's teeth out of her head with a dick. Like it's commonplace.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's PG-13 shit. Like who cares?
Right. But you said it, you set this up right. Now I'm just seeing the premise that you've put forth is that she's just trying to like walk back her entire career leading up to it. And there's really no need. What I'm really seeing is there's no need for this.
Not this. The other one that we just covered, maybe, yeah. But this,
I don't even think
nobody's worried about this.
Yeah.
Except Paris Hilton.
Yeah, nobody. Yeah. Yeah, now they're best friends. Now they're, they bought a Lululemon franchise together on freaking Rodeo Drive, and yeah, they're best friends or some shit.
Something. But in clip 18, Sarah is totally into woke shit.
So here we are in an awakened world, and I'm totally into it. It's how we grow. It's how we change.
That's
super
preposterous
down with,
too.
Reflecting on the past and my part in perpetuating real ugly shit. And yes, we can continue to litigate the past, but I do believe that maybe that should be, coupled with taking into account any growth that has come with those passing years.
Right. So taking the growth into account is the part that I agree with here. I don't like the torches and pitchforks version of cancel culture. That needs to go away. And we talked about it a little bit with Blazing Saddles shit, how I kind of was hoping it was turning a corner where people were starting to say, hey, let's let's take the spectrum of time and apply understanding to it. So I agree with what she's saying there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, I think she's dramatically off base with the fact that, like, in this woke day and age, the country's never been more divided. You know, only in the Civil War times can I think of a time where we were so divided as a society on this, that, and the other thing. But like, she's kind of poising this as just like, oh, it's the new age of enlightenment here, and racism is gone. Nobody cares. Like there has not been this dramatic shift into like woke society. That's the thing that is so crazy about it, is just like little girls and fucking other people don't want this shit. No, like some little black girl isn't desperate for a lightsaber or a fucking superhero cape. Really, I mean, I don't want them to not have it, but they're not just like, why didn't I get that? They're interested in other shit.
They were never not allowed to have it. Also,
right. Also, you were never excluded from this
they
club.
just didn't want it. They just didn't want it, and they don't. The Madam Web is tanking. The Marvels is tanking. That's not your core audience.
Yeah, that's a little off topic, but yeah, it's not this like woke phenomenon. It is inserting itself in the worst possible ways into Hollywood and pop culture, but it's not changing the world. That might be the disconnect that Sarah's experiencing here, because she's a creator and Jewish and has a platform and things like that. So to her, it might feel like this huge cultural shift. I think to the rest of the world, we can see that she thinks it's shifting for the good. It's not. No. It's not shifting for the good. If it's shifting at all, it's shifting for worse.
Yeah, it's a glacial shift. But luckily, she is trying to establish the fact that she would like a little bit of grace for growing as a person over the years, and realizing that maybe her take on it back then wasn't her take on it now. And luckily, someone who is way more talented than Sarah is going to swoop in to make a really good point in clip 11.
Neil Brennan has a brilliant joke, and I'll ruin it right now trying to tell it to you. But basically, it's about growth.
He sells tickets.
So he says, it's like, he compares it to people going up to LeBron James and saying, we found this picture of you in 5th grade and you're only 5'5". You're only 5'5" here. And he says, yeah, but I grew. Yeah, but this is you, right?
That's interesting. Yeah. I like that. Mm-hmm. That's a really good way to talk about jokes that happened in 2001 versus now, where Jeremy Piven is using the N-word in Scary Movie 3. They probably wouldn't do that today.
It wouldn't get made. You wouldn't fucking greenlight it.
Yeah, right. I love that movie, though. Check out Scary Movie 3.
And his favorite part. Did you see Jeremy Piven?
All right.
We got a Jeremy Piven poster on the wall.
My favorite actor. All right. In clip 20, this is where we could see Sarah becoming the poster child for our show. All apologies right here.
As we as a society look back at shit that with what we know now is fucked up, I'll be addressing it. Yeah, fuck, I'll participate in that. And a lot of times I'll be sorry. I do not apologize if I'm not sorry, but I do apologize when I am sorry. And I happen to be sorry a lot. Straight up.
Probably by next year, we'll be doing Sarah Silverman part 2. You can see it coming.
We'll probably be doing me for this episode next week.
Right.
I have lived too long to not have fucked up a lot and publicly. I bet even Paris Hilton could maybe relate to that. So briefly, I'll tell you the story. And she tells the story. And the story was that I hosted the MTV Movie Awards in 2007, and I roasted all the nominees and biggest names of the day. I remember I actually got flowers from Jack Nicholson, which I think I still have the card all chewed up and old now. Because I made him laugh doing a joke about him where I said something like, oh, Jack Nicholson is here. I can't believe it. I'm such a fan. You've been in every single one of my favorite actresses.
It's chewed up and old like her vagina.
Yeah, that's a pretty good joke. She has the capacity to write a good joke. But Jack sent that to her because he's like, "You're next, honey." That's what Jack does.
Yeah.
So why you got those flowers?
Mm-hmm.
And
it was right next to that where Jennifer Lawrence won the Oscar or whatever, and he like tapped her on the shoulder to congratulate her on TV, and she was like all excited that it was him or whatever. That was him, trying to bang Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah. I'm in room 221. Okay. We got you, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
But she's going to sum up the circumstances of the occasion in clip 22.
Of course, with men, it's not slut shaming. It's a big fat high five. So I'm not equating this with Paris or what I said about Paris. I'm just going down memory lane a little bit. So obviously, Paris was just the biggest thing in the news back then, especially in that very moment, because she was about to go to jail for, I believe, blowing off her parole for some kind of vehicular offense.
When they talk about entitlement and privilege, they're talking about Paris Hilton.
Right.
It's like the only person they're talking about.
Yes. And in clip 23, she's going to sum up the joke that we already heard.
I did not know that she was coming to the event, which is neither here nor there, but just the truth. I didn't know also that she would be going directly from the event to jail that night. I said some very hardcore jokes about her.
Not really.
And she was there. And I said something about her going to jail and how they're going to paint the bars of the jail to look like penises. So she felt at home, and that I was worried that she'd break her teeth on those, on the bars or something. Not nice. Not nice at all.
Funny.
Hey, you know what else isn't nice? Paris Hilton. She used to stand next to Nicole Richie while they acted like bitches to like regular jack-offs. And that was like 2 seasons of a show. Just Nicole Richie being a bitch and Paris Hilton standing there laughing about it, going, "That's hot." I mean, that's why everybody enjoyed watching her get shit on, because she was an elitist bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's worried about Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
Nor should you be.
Right. She's like the exact person you should be making fun of.
Yes. All right. Well, in clip 24, Sarah takes it upon herself to write a letter to Paris Hilton, apologize. Like, I don't even know if I really believe this. Let's hear this and see if you believe it.
And if, the crowd went bananas. And while I was, thrilled at the success of my monologue, I remember spotting her in the audience. I really do. And I remember seeing that look on her face, and my heart sank because there was a person under there. And a couple days later, I wrote her a letter apologizing. I felt awful. And I never heard back. I certainly wouldn't expect to anyway. But on her podcast the other day, she said she never heard from me, which just bums me out because I guess it never got to her. And I don't know how that happened, but
Paris Hilton probably never attended a class in her entire life. She didn't read your letter because she doesn't know how.
Her grades were all purchased.
Yeah. Because
Um,
she was born with everything. She's earned nothing. So I don't buy sympathy for Paris Hilton. She's never going to get it from me.
Absolutely not. And my biggest takeaway from that is don't bother writing a letter. It won't even they won't even get it. You know, like that's not how you apologize, right? Like that's not how that should have been done. Basically, it should have been a phone call, or at very least a phone call, at very most a face-to-face something. Because you went through all of this, and maybe you felt like, oh, I got that off my chest. I wrote that letter. I sent it to her. She'll know how sorry I am, and maybe we can move forward. It never even happened. Like a whole lot of wasted fucking effort on Sarah Silverman's part. You know, years go by. It was just a complete useless task, basically. So don't bother.
Right.
It was barely offensive.
Right. You issued this public apology on your show. Do you think Paris Hilton will be bothered to listen to it?
Here's the other thing, because I have to hear this kind of a lot. The amount of times that you've been driving drunk on the road, how many lives you've put at risk, you know, like the disregard for other people that simply is, that like a minor inconvenience to you is putting the lives of countless people in jeopardy while you're out on the road, you know, and doing it not once, but twice, but 3 times, whatever amount of times lands you in fucking jail.
Leave me out of this. Leave me out of this.
Fuck Paris Hilton.
Right. Yeah, I know.
God, this is embarrassing for Sarah Silverman.
I know. Why is she doing this? On the heels of that first one that we covered, this is unnecessary. But Sarah wants to issue her formal apology in clip 25.
I'm just real sorry my note didn't get to her because I really meant it. You know, I regretted the jokes not years later, but kind of immediately. And I wrote her to let her know, but I now know that letter didn't get to her. So here I am 14 years later telling you, Paris, that I am really sorry. I was then, and I am much more completely and with far more understanding, I think, now.
Well, like I said, Paris doesn't care about your apology. No one will hear this. Paris won't hear this. No one should hear this. And maybe a best case scenario is Paris Hilton's assistant plays a soundbite, a clip. Oh, did you hear Sarah Silverman apologize for you? I'll play it through your bathroom door while you're taking a shit, Paris. And she's just like flush the toilet, and move on with her day. She doesn't care about this, and neither do I.
Sarah's just like, yeah, the note I wrote on flash paper in invisible ink, and I attached it to a fucking helium balloon and sent it out the window. Well, it just didn't fucking get to her.
Yeah. The messenger pigeon never arrived. Whoops.
Yeah. It's fucking stupid. And this is stupid.
Yeah.
Maybe on my podcast. Because Paris Hilton listens to your podcast. She's so interested in what you're doing. The great podcast where somebody fucking wrote in and said they were going to kill themselves. What should I do?
Yeah, honestly, this is the most interesting thing that's ever happened on Sarah Silverman's podcast. The rest of the normal content is unlistenable. But
she should just apologize for doing blackface every episode.
But she's in clip 26. She's gonna invoke that statement from the beginning of the show. I said she says this in both segments. This is the second time in a totally different episode, but this is a trope that she's latched onto about walking back her career.
I can't imagine what you were going through at that time. My understanding of humanity through the lens of my work as a comedian had not yet merged. And I'm sorry I hurt you. Comedy, you know, is not evergreen. We can't change the past. So what's crucial is that we change with the times. I can imagine, Paris is probably now also reflecting and apologizing for stuff. And I say good on her for that.
What? You're just like making up a fucking sympathetic Paris Hilton to apologize to?
Yeah. Evergreen comedy. All I can say is the Muppet Show existed. That's accessible to everyone. That's for everyone. You could watch that at any time. That's evergreen comedy. It exists. So just because you said something that didn't age well doesn't mean that everything else can't age well. And honestly, I think saying Paris Hilton sucks cock is an evergreen joke. That's funny to me.
Right. Or insert new spoiled blonde rich girl here. The jokes will be evergreen. The name may change. The jokes will always be there.
Yeah.
But it's like fucking your I fucked your mom. Like it will always be said.
Yeah. Exactly. And in our last clip, Sarah's going to try the we're not so different, you and I trope.
We both played mean characters, and they had our real names. So Paris, I hope that you accept my apology. I hope that you feel my remorse. I felt it the second I saw your face that night. It feels terrible to know that you have hurt someone, and it's important to make it right. So I hope this does that.
Well, at least that's all cleared up.
So I can act in that black project that's coming down the pike.
Paris Hilton is producing.
Yeah. And Sarah Silverman as Paris Hilton.
By the way, Paris Hilton served 23 days of a 45-day jail sentence with 3 years of probation and a $1,200 fine, which she could easily afford.
Well, 23 days for somebody like Paris Hilton is probably no joke in some shithole, even if there's tennis courts there.
It was tough times at the Hilton that year, or her white collar prison that she went to.
Yeah, they turned a Hilton. They emptied a Hilton in Des Moines, Iowa, and turned it into a prison for 23 days.
Right.
And that's where they kept her or something. So 3 years of probation. I don't know what fucking probation entails. I'm sure it's a pain in the fucking ass, but
yeah. Good luck, Paris. No, she was out. She was out in 2 seconds. It was nothing. It was a blip. So why do we need to apologize to her?
We don't. It's actually, that's the most dumbfounding part of the whole thing, is like feeling like you had to apologize to Paris Hilton for anything.
So ridiculous. Okay, so let's run it back to the beginning of the show, the blackface apology. I do genuinely think that she doesn't want that to be in existence, but is it because it's affecting her career and it's coloring people's opinion of her? Is she genuinely sorry about that?
Genuinely sorry, but it's just personal. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like an apology to herself. It feels like.
All right, I got the perfect one.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's kind of,
I think that's right.
I mean, the context of that, it's just like, this isn't for anybody except you, buddy. Why are you singing this?
Yeah. Yeah,
all right.
For real. That's true.
Yeah.
The judge doesn't care about your song. Nobody cares about this. Yeah.
And I think for the Paris Hilton one,
I did this one.
Yeah.
Sorry for party rocking.
No, I think it's the Fuck all that.
Fuck all that.
Yeah, that's more of my takeaway from the Paris Hilton apology.
The Paris Hilton thing is just, it seems to me like Sarah Silverman's like, I wish I was best friends with Paris Hilton. She does a shitty podcast. I do a shitty podcast. We should shitty podcast together. That's the only thing that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, you think like Don Rickles was fucking sorry for making fun of anyone? Like, ever? It's just a fucking joke.
Paris Hilton should apologize for not having a sense of humor. If you're going to go on your show and say that hurt your feelings when you were spending your last day before you went to jail at the VMAs, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
hang out with your family or something.
This despicable whore sucks dick and she's going to jail. What?
Good.
Yeah. Resounding cheers throughout the VMAs of why the fuck is she here? Was fucking Surreal Life, or what was it? Was that it? Was that on MTV?
No, not Surreal Life. The Simple Life.
Simple Life. Was that network?
It was on Fox.
Yeah. So it wasn't an MTV show. Point being, why the fuck are you at the VMAs? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Because you fucked three
all the
guys
music,
winning an award tonight.
Her terrible video that she put out.
Oh God, I forgot that.
Remember, she tried to have a music career for 2 seconds. Her and Lindsay Lohan, all they did was run around falling out of limos with their twats hanging out and putting out awful singles.
Yeah,
the two of them. That was all of my aughts.
Yeah, being a despicable whore is not one of the Triple Threat trilogy.
Yeah, I sing, dance, and I flash my twat at the TMZ. I'm a triple threat.
Yeah, somebody get me an EGOT.
Yeah.
The T in the EGOT stands for twat.
Oh, perfect. Well, we've gone on long enough, John. I do sincerely think I do sincerely think that we'll be covering Sarah Silverman again sometime soon. But I want to thank everybody that checked out the live show. If you're listening to this and you were there, nothing but love. And if you couldn't be there, you could still support the show by following us and commenting and liking on Instagram. And you can rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to support the show for $5 a month on Patreon, you'll be able to see the All Apologies live segment. And that should be up, hopefully, within the month. No promises. But for Joe Sixpack, I'm Andy Q Public saying...
Sorry.